of our top 10 7-inch singles. We will be doing another video at some point, and the rest. So we could be going from 10 to 20, who knows? Because it was quite difficult going through all the singles and picking out just 10. I could do 50. So we're definitely going to revisit this. But my number one for the minute is for a band who, again, I love, I adore. I've worked with Steve Strange. I'll give it away there. So my number one is Visage. Everyone seems to know they're going to tracks like Fade to Grey, Dan Don't Cry, all of that. But this was their first ever single as Visage, with the classic lineup of Rusty Egan, Midge, Billy Currie, John McGeoch, Dave Formula, Barry Adamson. And Barry Adamson, this is the only single he played bass on because he also played from Magazine, Buzzcocks, so quite a few other bands. So this is the only one he appears on. It was signed to Radar Records in 1979. Didn't do very well at the time, and it's basically Tar/Frequency 7. Then became a collector's item and a classic record, which I'll talk about in a second. Because this didn't do very well, it forced the collapse of Radar Records straight after it, so Radar Records disappeared after this. The Tar track is all about smoking, the joys and pain of smoking. 1979, it's quite forward thinking actually. When we listen to lyrically, it goes on about yellow stained fingers, and it's brilliant. The music's incredible, lyrically it's incredible. But I reckon, knowing Steve, he would have done that to get some like advertising, advert music, because obviously at that time, 1979, smoking was okay. But it was the B-side that we loved, and it's a track called Frequency 7, really synthesized, definitely come from Midge and Dave Formula, with coded vocals. I don't even think Steve Strange was singing on this, we just did Tar. It then got released again as part of the Mind of a Toy. I think it was on the 12-inch. They did the dance mix of Frequency 7 for the Mind of a Toy, which was a big hit for Visage. And then reappeared again in 2013 with the band, the newer version of, obviously, Visage re-released Frequency 7. There's not much really more to say about this. It's just a great record. I never ever could get hold of this record. It was almost like, bear in mind, it's been around since 1979. Then Fade to Grey come out, and we was massive fans. Then we found out about this record, but none of us could find it. And I found it in Sister Ray Records, London, for £10. And I've left a sticker on it just to remind me where I got this from. But I absolutely love this record. This is a great sleeve. There's different variations on this sleeve, I believe. And on here, Steve has got green eyes. And I think there's a variation where he's got red eyes as well, but I've never been able to find that. But it's just a great record, and the production on this is so good as well. For a 7-inch single, it really kicks. And I remember I was playing for a night called Computer Blue in London, and they played like Italo Disco, all kind of electronic stuff. And I wanted to play this, and I only had the 7-inch, and it sounded incredible compared to all the 12 inches that I was playing. So great production. Billy Currie, I mean, obviously if he's involved in anything, it's going to be amazing. And Midge, who went to become Ultravox. Well done, Mark. I had to think about that. But yeah,
put me on the spot.
Yeah. So that is my number one, and it's Visage Tar. Again, there's something about the B-side. It's the B-side that did it for me. Even though Tar was great, it did appear on the first album, but it's Frequency 7, which didn't appear on the first album. Didn't make appearance till the dance mix of Mind of a Toy 7-inch and 12-inch. But you haven't heard it, check it out. It's brilliant. Visage Tar. Over to Mark.
So my number one single is the song Familiar Drugs by Alexis on Fire. So Alexis on Fire are a post-hardcore band, and in my opinion, when they first started in like the early 2000s, they were kind of the band that kind of ushered in a new wave of post-hardcore music. I won't go in too deep as to what post-hardcore is, because it's a nebulous thing at the best of times, and it's such a wide-spanning term. Like, in the top 20 albums, I had the Don Broco album, and that's sort of classified as post-hardcore, and these two sound nothing alike.
Right.
But they get kind of like lumped in the same like genre for some reason. But yeah, I'd say Alexis on Fire, when they released their debut album, they kind of started a new wave of it, at least in my opinion, alongside like bands like MCR, who I know a lot of people don't care for, and certainly like at the time when they kind of had their sort of fake goth look, a lot of people hated them for it. Listen to their debut, because everybody hates on their second album, but their debut, I Gave You My Bullets, that album is heavy as, and it's really, really worth checking out. Like, that's a really, really solid debut album, and I think a lot of people assume it doesn't exist. But yeah, check that album out especially. But yeah, anyway, Alexis on Fire and Familiar Drugs. So this was their first new music since 2010.
Wow.
This came out in 2019. Thing that came prior to this, they did have an EP, Death Letter, in 2012, but that was just like acoustic versions of their old songs. So this was their first new music since the Dog's Blood EP in 2010. Dog's Blood was quite hardcore punk. A lot of the kind of influence, I think, from guitarist Wade McNeil and vocalist George Petit. They're both kind of quite into their heavy punk stuff, and then the rest of the band have a little bit more of a rock kind of influence, especially Dallas Green, who's the other guitarist and kind of the clean singer of the band. Together they merge and make fantastic music, but Dog's Blood was quite straightforward hardcore punk in a way. This is a little bit of a continuation of that, but you can tell that they've matured, and it's a really, really amazing way for them to have said, like, we're back. It's heavy as hell, but there's nuance to it. The song itself, it starts off like the first like couple of seconds of it is just amp feedback, and it kind of, I don't know, it just really sets the tone. It's like 2 seconds of it, like, but it's fucking cool. Nice. And the riff itself, pretty simple riff. It was something I think that Dallas Green apparently had on his phone. Like he plugged in like an old phone and found a voice memo of it, and it was something he'd recorded years and years and years prior, and he just used it for the new song. Heavy, heavy song, and then you get into the main chorus where Dallas Green starts to do his clean singing. I mean, his clean vocals have always been infallible. Like, I don't think that guy has a bad note that has ever come out of his mouth. Like, he literally cannot miss when he sings. He sounds amazing, and he sounds fantastic on this track. It was engineered by Carl Barham, who he'd worked with, Dallas Green had worked with a lot on his other project, City in Colour. So I guess that probably helped a lot in that they kind of knew each other's workflows and things like that, and kind of understood the aesthetic that they should go for. So yeah, it sounds amazing. This, as I said, it was their kind of way of saying they were back. They released 2 more singles after this. They had Complicit in 2019 as well, and then 2020 they did Season of the Flood. Both fantastic songs. Season of the Flood is a really fantastic song, especially a lot more stonery and ambient. And those 3 songs kind of informed what would then become their album Otherness, which came out last year. That's a fantastic album as well. That's worth checking out. I think for people who haven't heard Alexis on Fire, that and their debut are probably the 2 best albums to listen to, because it kind of gives you a snapshot of obviously both ends of their career, but also their range. Otherness is a very somber, reflective album, and their debut is, while it has some somber moments, is very aggressive and kind of just a big like fuck you, which is impressive for a debut album. But yeah, back to this song, Familiar Drugs, the title. Lyrically, it's kind of all about people who, as the name would suggest, kind of rely on things that are familiar to them, knowing that you shouldn't be doing them, but just kind of saying fuck it and falling back on old habits. It's kind of funny in a way that the song itself doesn't sound a lot like their old stuff, in that it is a bit more sludgy, a bit more what they would go on to do, because they haven't fallen back on old habits. They've kind of changed themselves up, they've reimagined themselves. Yeah, I can't say a ton more about it. It's just a really, really heavy-hitting, punchy song. The music video's cool. It's just them they're in like a storefront, presumably in St. Catharines, where they're from, in Ontario, and it's just them like rocking out, and there's like a middle-aged woman who's got to like stand by the door and watch them. It's super, super lame and simple, but it's kind of cool. It kind of captures that vibe of like just dudes in a band who want to like make some heavy music.
Because one thing is, obviously I pointed out before we started this video, is like they've made such an emphasis on the green that I'd assume the
Yeah.
vinyl would be. Maybe there is like a luminous green.
There
vinyl
could
out
be,
there
yeah.
somewhere.
At the very least, this is the one that I've got, which is just a black vinyl. But potentially there is one out there. I know they have had coloured vinyl for other releases in the past, but this is the one that I've got. But I mean, it sounds fine. There's never been any issue with this pressing for me, so that's the main thing
So
that I wanted.
what made you choose that as your number one? Because it's a relatively new record, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it's just that journey of having a band that I've known and loved for a long time, and then having them finally be back and that kind of triumphant return to form. It kind of just is a little bit more special because of how they as a band made me feel at the time. The song itself obviously is amazing, but as I mentioned with the Deftones stuff, it's not just the music that makes a vinyl special. It's also about
Yeah.
the feeling you get from it, just having it,
Yeah.
and wanting to support a band as well. Yes, I could listen to anything on streaming whenever I want. Having that physical copy and knowing that I've kind of gone a little bit further to pick up something and kind of show my support for a band that, for all intents and purposes, could have just quit and gone on and gotten day jobs and called it a day. I don't know, it's nice to have them back. And the new album, or last year's album, is fantastic. And yeah,
It didn't even appear in your top 20 albums of all time.
No, well, to be fair, it wasn't out when we first started recording.
Oh, so it might appear in the and the rest.
Potentially, yes. Yeah. I've waffled a lot, but pick it up. It's really, really good. It's not that expensive. It sounds amazing. The song's heavy, and it's just a single on its own, so you don't need to worry about missing out on the rest of an album. This only came out as a single. Otherness isn't, that's all new songs for that album. So this is just it in and of itself.
Standalone purchase.
Buy it.
Brilliant. So we've come to the end of our top 10 singles. What did you think of our top 10 singles? It'd be great to leave some comments underneath. What did you think? Was it rubbish? Or was it eye-opening? Do you like the colours of the sleeves? Something. Just let us know. And obviously, any ideas you got for lists as well is great. And also to thank you for the people that have commented. For instance, like the Depeche Mode one, and had some really nice, interesting conversations with people and what they thought of the album. And it's quite good to see other people's thoughts on the records. And exactly the same with any of our top 10s. Let us know. Even send us your top 10. But listen, thank you so much for checking out the top 10, and we have loads of surprises coming up soon. I look forward to seeing you again. Ciao.